2 years ago, the Grenfell fire started. 72 people were killed. So why, so many months on, and more than 300 buildings across the country still covered in dangerous cladding? The anger at what survivors see as a lack of action was present today as the community came together to grieve and remember all that was lost. Rags Martell is in North Kensington this evening. Rags.
Nina, the community here first counted the fire, first in days, then months, and now it's years. For the people who lived in the tower, they say it's a tragedy in 3 parts. They were failed before the fire, during and after. But today was about remembering those lives changed and those lives lost.
I'm so sorry that we never got to say goodbye.
In a church close to the tower, they remembered. Yusra Chabika lost her friend in the fire.
You didn't even get the chance to say goodbye to me, and I miss you. And I won't stop missing you. I'm lost and I can't find my way. I'm thinking of the things that you might do, the things that you might say, but there's a silence. Your voice I cannot hear.
Just after midnight, at the time the fire started 2 years ago, the tower turned green in remembrance. At Downing Street too. But for survivors and the bereaved, grief is mixed with frustration at the slow pace of justice.
What I want to hear is that people have been arrested and things have moved on, not how things are at the present moment, whereas, you know, that greatest labour-saving device of all time, mañana, domani, yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes.
The pain of loss here is still visible. The Grenfell NHS Mental Health Service is so big, it has its own building. The outreach team have screened almost 8,000 people for trauma so far.
Things like people presenting with PTSD directly related to the fire, but also a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of people, relationship difficulties, and the traumatic bereavement element as well, so it's quite a complicated response.
The government says it's committed to improving fire safety, but for the Fire Brigades Union, nothing has changed.
I remember at the time being told this is a game changer, this is a turning point. We don't see any evidence that there's a huge turning point, certainly in terms of the fire policy and the fire and rescue service.
And who do you blame?
I think responsibility rests with central government.
For 2 years, survivors and bereaved have lobbied the government to remove flammable cladding, but it remains on hundreds of buildings. We spoke to the Cabinet Minister in charge of housing. Aren't you embarrassed to be here because it's been 2 years and there's still flammable cladding on hundreds of buildings? What's your response to that?
Well, today is a day for all of those who lost their lives. It's a very poignant day. It's a very powerful
still no
day.
About the cladding. There's still flammable
with all
cladding.
of those who have really come together today as this amazing community. There will be time, I'm sure, for all of us to reflect on the issues that are still very relevant in terms of building safety.
2 years have now passed, but this community is still standing together, waiting for justice. Rags Martell, ITV News, North Kensington.
The fight for the cladding to be torn down and for justice for all those affected by Grenfell has fallen on a strong band of campaigners. Their tenacity and determination hasn't waned in the last 2 years. It can't. One of the leading voices is Natasha Elcock. She never envisaged herself in such a role until the worst happened. In her own words, why that fight must go on.
Those that passed will always be at the forefront of our mind and will be for forever and a day. You know, we won't ever forget about them. That's why we do what we do. However, 2 years on, I would like to have thought that we would be in a better position than we are. We are still campaigning to ensure that people are safe in their homes. You know, there's a number of blocks, hundreds of blocks that still have dangerous materials on them. Yes, the government's pledged money to get the materials removed, but they're not being removed quick enough. There needs to be a huge review in stay put, especially when buildings have materials on them that will make fire spread. You know, for me, stay put was something I was told, and then at the point of that being reversed, I was too scared to leave. And I relied heavily on the fire service to rescue me, which, you know, 2 firemen did come and rescue my family, and I will be grateful for that. However, had that stay put policy been changed within minutes as that building as the fire took hold in the building, then, you know, there'd be so many more people here today. We had to send out a big message to highlight the fact that homes are still not safe. The only way we felt that was right at this point was to send a big message, to the government that enough's enough. You know, we need action now. We're fed up of words, we need action.
Natasha Elcock's call there. Rags is with another campaigner now. Rags.
Well, Nina, every month on the 14th, the community gathers and walks silently to remember the lives lost at Grenfell. And I'm joined now by Ziad Kred, the organiser of the march. This is one of maybe the only good thing which has come out of Grenfell, the community. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, our area has always had like a history of community. But after that tragic night, it was definitely reborn again. And we formed and we've united, and you know, it's not something that we've asked for or something that we necessarily wanted to be in, but we've kind of embraced where we've fallen into the positions that we have, and yeah, we're just making sure that this doesn't happen again.
How would you sum up the mood here?
Last night was a very eerie feeling in the community. You could cut the tension with the air. It's a lot of sorrow, a lot of sadness, and today, you know, there's mixed emotions. There's feelings of support and, you know, empathy. People who have travelled from far to come and show their support with the silent walk and with this committee and this community. So yeah, it's a really tough day.
And what do you say about the government? The government says it's doing all it can. It's putting money towards taking off dangerous cladding. It said it's created a Hackett review. What do you say to that?
I mean, personally, I find it quite insulting, to be honest. The other day, embarking was just a warning that Grenfell 2 is just waiting to happen. And rather than us solely focusing on getting our lives back together as a community, our main goal is to make sure that it doesn't happen again and that people go to sleep home safe in their homes at night.
Yeah, Craig, thank you very much. That's all from us. Now the wait for justice for everyone here in the community continues after 2 years.
Rags Martel, thank you. Well, the fire at Barking last weekend served as a reminder, as if one were needed, of what can happen if fire is allowed to spread through a block of flats. Last night, people who live in the Riverside development got a chance to confront the developers and management company about what happened and what happens now. Ria Chatterjee was there.
But we don't trust you.
Oh no!
It's a death trap.
You cannot expect any person in here to put their kids to bed at night and hope for the best.
The residents' demands were clear.
That the claddings should be removed.
It will be, say the companies responsible for the flats and houses with external timber.
We're removing facing material, we're removing the vertical connections.
I spoke to Ian Gorst, chairman of Bellway Homes.
We have a process immediately in place to reduce the amount of cladding. We can't obviously remove all of it immediately because there isn't a...
So residents won't be safe then if you can't remove the cladding?
I don't think you can draw that conclusion. What works we're doing is making the building immediately safer.
How is that happening though? If the cladding's still up and the cladding is wooden cladding and you've said it's not fire retardant?
Yeah. Because we're reducing the quantum of cladding on the exterior of the building.
You're not taking it all off?
We're in the process of putting a design in place which will enable us to take all the cladding off.
Bellway say that Samuel Garside House is compliant with building regulations.
We feel our life threatened.
But residents say this means little. What does it matter now, they ask, when the fire spread so quickly when they'd been trying to raise fire safety concerns for months.
An external investigator that was put in yesterday, and his words were, it just echoes in my head really, that if this was in the night, it would have been another Grenfell.
8 flats have been completely destroyed. One of them is Miriam and Luke's.
The fire service escorted us in. The heat was unreal, and this is probably a good 24 hours later. The heat in there was still phenomenal. But then seeing the damage to your goods and to your property and to the stuff that you spent your life working hard to get, and it's gone. I can't explain it really. It's an emotional, it makes you angry, it makes you sad.
Do you think in London in 2019 it's acceptable for Londoners to be burnt out of their homes, and it's happened on your watch?
Fire is regrettable. Buildings are not fireproof. Fires can occur and start. It's then how the building performs. The building had all regulatory approvals.
Stakeholders repeatedly made it clear they'll continue to listen to people's concerns. The People propose a resident-led housing inquiry looking at fire safety concerns and how they were handled by those in charge. Ria Chatterjee, ITV News.